works, and it said what you see, your brain can't truly allow itself to tell the difference. So then I said to myself, why don't I? Because I'm gonna watch something miserable. I want something to feel the way I want to feel, but I didn't want another human being to feel the way I feel. And within allowing myself to do that, it gave me the opportunity to look at what normally would go wrong in these type of situations and not counteract, but just sit with it. And this is where I asked myself, what is truly happening, not from their point of view and how they got their leg back and how they stopped talking or the story itself. I just said, how, what would be my end result? And my end result was just to watch, not judge, listen. But the feeling was already there because I was just low and I didn't want to get out of bed. It was one of the moments. Upon watching back to back days, weeks, months of this, and I think that's where seeing it in a different light, because I always had sunshine and rainbows. The way I looked at, the way I created my golden light, I always had sunshines and rainbows. Then I started watching this, and I was like, oh my God, this could happen. And I suppose, in a sense, it did happen because I was in a bad place, and I kind of felt the light and the gold are not working together to keep myself stable, or it was a situation where the marination became too much for them to handle. Because what you see is what you think, and also what you feel is what you put out there. And upon watching this, seeing the the figure of a male and the figure of a woman truly battling it out, and seeing the conflicts and the heartbreaks and the separation, the doubtness, the envy, and I said, this could happen to me, even as I build my pillars, and also, no matter how hard I build them or clever and structured, it wouldn't be enough because I'm only limited to what I can say and how I can think. It wouldn't be enough. And it's it's so much more technical. I don't know how to explain this. It's so much more technical to believe that the pillars, the structures have gone, because there's a feminine energy and then there's a masculine energy. And trying to get the two to coexist together, and you have to remember, bearing in mind, this is all happening in your own body, and you do not understand how energy works, frequency, and how you and leverage it to your own desires, and you're building these characters in your head, but you're not putting any emotions to them, any feelings, structure within themselves, it becomes rigid, and your psyche kind of cracks a little bit because it's trying to do all of these things, trying to picture it in different ways. But sometimes I kind of feel it's like love. You can't explain it, but you can feel it. And as soon as I started putting emotions to them, because I could only, in myself, I could only look at it and say, that's a woman, that's a man. And then I give them light and gold. And then I just play different scenarios without no emotions. I would watch movies, series, TikToks, Instagrams, people, even animals. And then I would simulate it in my head and see what I would be able to do with it. And then, but it was never alive. But as soon as I realized, as a man, I was like, oh my God, I'm a deep thinker. I truly lean more in my emotions. Why have I not tried to look at this in an emotional way? And as soon as I did that, my surroundings just, because like I say, playing but on the bench. And once I put the emotions into it, I couldn't take it back. I just couldn't take it back. And my surroundings couldn't handle the frequency and the brain of thought because I've constructed the the place, the time, the situations, everything, but I never put any emotions into it. But as students, I did. The the barrier itself, and I say again, the psyche just broke off. So even the stories of the divorce and just feeling how the people felt, and then I remember my sunshines and rainbows. I put emotions into it. It gets to a point where it's much more hard. And when people used to come to me about relationships, and I would give them a true straight up word, and they say, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend?" Though, and this last time I just say no. I know and I feel because I've taken time and I've played it out within myself, and it messes you up in a way. But if you can allow it to live within the chaos, it also helps you to realize a few things about yourself that you're holding back. And it's it's much more harder to even relate to somebody because the emotional depth that you need to have, and you're trying to analyze and sort of in a way predict the outcome. And it was a bad habit I used to have. I always hated when I was right. And I think this is where the intuition comes in, and how you allow it to approach not the situation itself, but the thought within the situation that you're having. If your thoughts, and you have to remember you've been doing this for a long